Last video I talked about how my 5-planet Capricorn husband, being very, very earth heavy in his natal chart, could be logical even to a fault. The example I had brought up was that with his emotions, which, emotions can make no sense, they can come out of nowhere, he wants to attribute his emotions to something that's happening in reality, and sometimes in trying to pin it on something real, will try to blame it on something that his emotion actually didn't come from. So another part of his and my astrology is our mutual placement of Pluto in Scorpio. So this is a generational planet. There were around 30 years of Pluto in Scorpio babies being born, and the way I like to very simply think of Pluto is that Pluto is revolution. It's the ruling planet for Scorpio. It also rules death and sex. And Pluto in Scorpio would then be revolution in sex. And we do know this to be, astrologers do say this, at this time there was a lot of changes in different ways that people related to each other sexually. Same-sex partnerships became more socially acceptable and more legal in many parts of the world. And then I also like to think of the fact that we have been able to have all these different arrangements where we could put sexual cells together without doing it the old-fashioned way. Nowadays a heterosexual couple can go to the doctor and have it done there. A gay couple can pay for a surrogate to have a baby, and a lesbian couple can pay for sperm to be placed in them at the doctor, and they don't have to worry about being with a man. Although it is still an option for a lesbian woman to choose to have a baby the old-fashioned way, and I talk about that in other videos. So part of the rise in all this Tradwife content has the other half of the population worried that this symbolizes us going backwards in sexual progression. Well, from an astrological viewpoint, everything is in cycles. If Pluto is in Scorpio and there's revolution on this frontier, well, when Pluto's in something else, there's just going to be revolution in a different frontier. It doesn't mean that there's not progress being made. It doesn't mean we aren't going forward. It just means these things happen in cycles. Right now, there's a lot of change here. 20, 30 years from now, there'll be a lot of change over there. That's okay. And I would hope that my channel is part of this middle ground that I've not seen anywhere on the internet, where I mix together ways that being lesbian can actually be compatible with the stuff that is so tightly attributed to Tradwives, but it's actually that Tradwives are appropriating something that can be helpful to anyone. So the era of Pluto and Scorpio is over. I am still a Pluto and Scorpio baby, and my husband is a Pluto and Scorpio baby. So we're still part of that. We are, having a new arrangement sexually than what has been common in other decades. He is a Scorpio rising also. The rising sign is what you are seen as by outsiders, very simply put. And I don't fully understand astrology myself, so I don't know it too much deeper than that. But how I like to see what works with feminine energy, and then how that is echoed in his natal chart, is that we've had this revolution in how the sexes relate to each other. And so surface level, rising, how you look. Yeah, rising can also be even your facial characteristic. There are facial characteristics attributed to each rising sign. Superficially, he will want to have equality. So if I talk to him about something logically, if I say, oh, you should do this chore for this reason, he's just gonna say, oh, well, I do this. Very 50-50 mindset, which I generally have to pull him away from. And it is the case, according to feminine energy, that you want to not encourage too much logical discussion. You want to make change without logical discussion. And you can find more information on that in all sorts of feminine energy videos. But I do find that that is the case with my husband, that he, surface level wants to do this revolutionary thing of all the sexes being equal. And yet, if we don't talk about it, I awaken this deeper nonverbal thing where he is being a provider without wanting to talk about it, which kind of echoes his sun being in Capricorn and then some of his other planets being in Capricorn. My rising is in Libra. Astrologically, that means I'm pretty, have an hourglass figure. Libra is ruled by Venus. I don't show much of myself here, so you can guess for yourself if that's accurate. And Libras, being very interested in fairness, are liars, actually, at least from what I've read. And it makes sense to me too. They will try to make both sides happy. And if you have two different sides, well, you're going to have to lie to one of them. And I have talked a lot about my autism and my autistic sense of justice on this channel, where I will be honest to a fault. But there have been also other times where I have been uncomfortable with telling the truth. And I have also at the same time told a lot of little white lies. So that all makes sense to me. So I am mixed up, and it makes sense according to my astrology that I have done these little white lies. But something that shows me that with my astrology, feminine energy is a really good thing for me, is that feminine energy teachings do tell me how to tell little white lies in ways that help me out. Not because I feel like I have to, not coming from a place of being unsafe because I'm scared someone will be mad at me, because that's where a lot of them have come from. Now I can use my power of little white lies. Again, astrology is neither black nor white. Every single attribute is both good and bad. I can, finally use my capacity for little white lies and just making people happy and just being pretty to my benefit, instead of perpetuating my constant fear of people being mad at me, which is called people pleasing in a lot of videos. But I like to think of it from a more severe PTSD example, where I am reacting to a benign situation, thinking that, very, very deeply thinking that it is the same as things that happened in my childhood, where I had to make people happy in order to keep myself physically safe, even though that's not where I am at right now. I am physically safe right now. And that is a very important thing to do with feminine energy, is to make sure that you feel very physically safe.